And hello, everybody. It's Monday night, 10 o'clock. You're live with Sherry Shriner. You can go to my website at SherryTalkRadio.com and submit a question for the show tonight. Send me an email at SherryTalkRadio@yahoo.com with question for the show in the subject line. I have a lot of questions tonight to get through. You can send them during the week. You don't have to wait the night of a show. And so that's what a lot of people have been doing. And it's very dominant, everyone wanting to know about Atlantis. And so I'm going to talk a little bit. I didn't really realize it until I started going through some of these questions tonight. Everyone's interested about Atlantis. But there's only a few things to say about it anyway, and so I'm going to, say what I can. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about this Maitreya guy coming, because so many people, I know everyone's waiting for things to happen here. And we've seen that they've tried to implement terrorist strikes on our own soil in the past. They tried it again this year at Easter time, and that was foiled. The bomb wouldn't go off. It should have gone off in Texas City. Of course, we were waiting for that one last year, and it didn't go off. And you might think it's just a bunch of hype. People just, some of these threats we get all the time. Some of these are very real, folks. Some of them, I've seen their attacks come and go, their plans. Reasons being because they were exposed ahead of time, and Satan's group likes to work on the element of surprise. And so if they're exposed, they'll be canceled. Other things are sometimes there are interferences. Perhaps the Lord is stopping an attack for whatever reason. Or perhaps some other entities. There's so many different factions fighting for control of the earth right now that they're fighting against each other. They are not one cohesive army working under Satan. Satan's kingdom is divided. And that's why the Lord says, Satan's, if a kingdom is divided, can it stand? A divided kingdom can't stand. And that's why Satan will never successfully rule the world, because he's lucky to stay in control at the top of his own kingdom at any one time, because there's just so much infighting. There's so many different groups just among the aliens, these fallen angels, and they're all fighting against each other. And so it's not a kingdom working together, like some people would imagine it. I guess if you really started paying attention to Star Wars, the series, you have to wonder what this guy knew. What did George Lucas know when he created the Star Wars series? Because it does put a lot of things into perspective. I've heard that the one Star Wars series was based off of a city that is a deep underground in Africa. The Hollow Earth there. I can't remember the name of the city. It started with the T. Tasmania, or some weird name with the T. But Star Wars depicts the same things. There's the forces of good, the forces of evil, and they're fighting against each other. And that's how it is in Satan's kingdom. You have the good aliens and the bad aliens. They want you to think that there's a good faction and a bad faction. They're not going to come out and tell you they're both evil. So, there's no good faction in Satan's kingdom. They're all evil. But they want you to think that in Satan's kingdom there is actually one good faction fighting against the evil ones. And of course Satan or whatever would be on the good side or whatever. That's just ridiculous. But it can give you a lot of insight into things coming in. I was thinking about the question last week about the bees, and I had something I wanted to say about that, and then I just I wasn't ready to say that. But some people are wondering, what's happening to all the bees around the world, if not just America. And somebody had a good explanation stating that with the solar bursts and the disruption of the electromagnetic layer around the Earth, that the bees are going off and getting lost and not being able to come back. And I really don't think that's true if nobody else is having that problem. The birds are flying fine, a little confused about where to go in the wintertime and now. But they're flying north. I heard some people saying they're following the geese. They're heading to Canada. They're going right behind them. But if these bees were being killed by chemtrails, you would find their bodies. You would find clumps of bees' bodies everywhere, you would think. And that's not the case. Bodies aren't being found. And so, I just had one of these thoughts when it was first mentioned last week, a question about the bees, and that, I remember like 2 years ago, or was it last year sometime? My memory is real gone sometimes. But I had this weird dream, and I'm going to relate it, because it was just one of those weird dreams you never forget. And I was on this deck platform type thing, and I didn't even know what it was. It was like several layers of a wooden deck, and there was like 100 or 200 people on it. And out of nowhere, I didn't know any of these people. And I was there by myself. I didn't know anybody else. Out of nowhere comes this UFO, and it has this long hose attached to it. It's like a long arm, and it's really just a hose. You don't realize what it is until it comes up right up to you. And it comes up to us, all of us, we're standing here on this deck platform, and you begin to see it's a vacuum. It's a huge vacuum. It's like a hose. And so this thing is chasing me up and down this deck. He's not going after anybody else. He's trying to suck me up into this hose. And so I was hiding underneath the stairway on one of the bottom levels, and it never did find me. And then a couple months later, Tom Cruise comes out with that movie, End of Days or whatever, about those big alien-type machines with the hoses on them. I thought that was pretty wild. But that thought came to me about, all these bees. Since the bodies aren't being found, there's millions and millions of bees being found, what if one of these hoses are just coming into these hives at night and sucking up all the bees in it? I realize, and most people don't, that this first 6 seals, they're opened by God. He's saying, okay, the tribulation period starting. But they're all implemented by man. The first 6 seals is Satan's wrath on earth. It's just God allows the seals to be opened. He's giving them the green light. He's saying go. And the first 6 seals on earth are Satan's wrath on man. So he's going to use man to fulfill every one of those seal judgments on earth. And of course, one of those are being famines. And without bees, you're looking at massive famine around the corner. And I've been saying that for a long time, that Satan would arrive at the height of a famine. And so, I think what really opened my eyes to the whole fact that this famine is really man-induced and not just something that happens because of the weather, which, by the way, can be controlled now through HAARP and weather weapons all around the world. Different countries have weather weapons. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was on a road trip last year, and I was going through the state of Illinois, and in every cornfield you will see a huge, mammoth, ugly, tower. And these aren't cell phone towers, folks. The cell phone towers and the radio towers will flash red lights. These other nefarious towers, they flash white lights, or they don't flash lights at all. They just have weird contraptions on them all the way around them, like a heartbeat, arrhythmia contraption-looking type thing around them. These are all for mind control, subliminal messaging, stuff like that. And when you go through Illinois, you just see them every farm, like every 500, 1,000 feet. Some of these farms are rather huge. You might go actually a quarter mile. But as soon as you pass one, you look ahead and you see another one. So it's not that far ahead. There's just so many towers all the way through Illinois. And I was wondering, what the heck are all these towers doing in Illinois? Why would they need a tower every 500 feet? And it came to me later some information about how they're using subliminal messaging to attack the atomic level of plants that grow, so that they won't grow right, so that they won't grow. And so, that's probably $1 billion worth of towers there, just to try to ensure that our breadbasket fails, that it doesn't produce wheat and corn and everything else those guys are planting out there. So I knew then, without a doubt, that this whole famine thing, and I've seen it in the codes, how it's a fraud, how it's a lie, because it's created by mankind. It's going to be created by our governments to knock the people into submission to their new economic program. It's also going to be used to starve people to death, get rid of unwanted population numbers. Their ultimate